Hello everybody. I am out for a walk in my neighborhood. As you could hear, maybe the birds um, on this block. I love walking around this neighborhood because honestly it's like something out of a fairy tale. If you've been watching my posts, you've been able to see how gorgeous this neighborhood is. And I'm about to cross the street, so give me a moment. Yeah, I want to make sure things are safe. So I wanted to talk about something specifically today because it's actually something that I'm currently experiencing, and I actually thought this would be a very good teaching moment. So let's see, one more street to cross. Okay. But yeah, nice place to walk around. All right, so let's see. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today actually is this idea of the memory of loss. So whether you're in the earlier stages of starting your healing journey or if you've been on your healing journey for a while, it's good for you to know, or at least remember, that healing takes place in stages, cycles, and the experience is like going through a spiral. You may revisit something several times until you get to deeper levels of it, deeper understandings of it, and you're able to clear out certain beliefs on a deeper level and actually start living in a more authentic way. So now, what's interesting is on that journey, your perception of whatever, let's say, wound or a belief that's not serving you will change. So when you're first starting out on your healing journey, like for example for me, when I was first starting, I think the most tumultuous aspects of my healing journey was when I was initiated into Reiki, and that was difficult. That much I'll say. It was really hard because when that first started, it felt like I was reliving certain experiences as if they were happening again. Like it's as if I was reliving things, re-experiencing them in real time. And that was really tough because it's like you can't see beyond where you're at. I cannot see where, speaking of, I cannot see because the sun, but you can't really see where you're at. You don't have a lot of perspective on what's happening. You just know you're going through something really tough and you're trying your best to get through it because it's so difficult, it's so overwhelming emotionally. And in those moments, what you feel and what you're experiencing emotionally feels like the reality. It feels like whatever you're experiencing now is the way things really are. I would say, honestly, in these stages of healing, the most supportive thing is when you have someone who is a teacher or a mentor that can kind of just remind you of what you're going through, but you don't always have that. I know I didn't. So I had to kind of really move through these periods of healing as best as possible with the resources that I had. And I think on a deeper level, there was a part of me that didn't want too much help. I wanted to know for myself. I wanted to gain the wisdom through the experience, even if it was really hard, right? So I'll just wait here and I can talk to you guys under the shade. But during those stages of healing, it was really hard. Like I said, you can't really see beyond where you're at. You don't really have much perspective. But then I noticed in stages of healing that came after, little by little, it was easier to have some perspective on what was happening. Now, what I've noticed though is that it feels like a mixed bag at first. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Perception, understanding, being receptive, all these kind of experiences happen in degrees and percentages. So it may start off as just a very small glimpse, a very small kind of like break in the clouds that makes you feel like, maybe this isn't the reality. Maybe there's something else going on. But then, because the weight of the wound or the, negative belief is so heavy, you get pulled back into it. And you just have to move through it as authentically as you can. I do not promote any kind of like gaslighting or bypassing yourself in these kinds of experiences. I think if an aspect of your healing journey is making you feel crazy, just let it make you feel crazy. You have to know where you are. And then moving forward, that kind of break in the clouds, that insight, that perspective on what's actually happening expands. It gets greater and greater. And you may still feel the resistance from the heaviness of that wound or that negative belief, but it may not be as strong. And I want to say on that note that this is why it's very important to practice meditation. It's important to have some kind of practice. It may start off consistently, like where you're doing the same thing every day or every other day, and maybe you start to become more flexible throughout the years, as you get more in touch with, whatever it is that you need for yourself, right? I encourage that, because our energy changes every day, our needs change every day, and you might need something different on Wednesday than what you needed for Monday, right? But the point is to have some kind of practice to help get you in touch with the aspect of yourself that has a greater perspective, that could zoom out, that could pull back and get a sense of what's actually happening. I don't want to say what's actually happening, but what's happening from a higher perspective. I feel like that's really important, because what that does is that it creates space. It creates space for you to really kind of step back and just have a wider perspective on what's happening, the many different layers of what's happening. At some point on this healing journey, you'll get to a place where, let's say you're having to move through some really thick, heavy emotional energies. And it's not to say that you won't feel them intensely, but you'll be able to more easily step back and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And you'll actually feel better about it. Because in comparison to the past, where it felt like whatever you were experiencing was the reality, because you really didn't have much perspective on what was happening, because you're able to step back a bit more, you're able to have more perspective, more insight, and understand, like, okay, even though this is difficult, it's not the reality. It's not the reality of what is available to me now, what I can have, what I can experience. There was something else I wanted to say too. Let me try to figure out what that was. Okay, I remember now. So when we're going through these kinds of experiences, we're able to, just gain an understanding that, okay, so this is not what the reality is, I'm just going through this. But then we can also look back on our experiences from before, when we were having all that difficulty and what we felt emotionally was the reality, and be like, okay, even then I was also still working through those beliefs. That wasn't the reality even then. It's just that I wasn't intentionally working through it. I was unaware of what was happening. So I felt like whatever I was experiencing was the reality. But even then, that wasn't the reality. It was just me working through my conditioning, working through, I don't know. Actually, that's a good point I wanted to touch upon, is this idea of the memory of loss. A lot of times we see memory as stuff that we have personally experienced in our lives directly. Like maybe we went through a situation where we had a financial loss, a relationship loss, or something like that. Like we went through it. But sometimes the memory can be ancestral memory. The memory can be what our parents went through that we had to witness, what we had to observe, what we were told from other people was the reality. If we heard our parents constantly complaining about relationships, money, not being able to have peace in their lives, that serves as a memory. That becomes a part of us. And so when we're working through the memory of loss, we have to keep that in mind as well, that some of the memories are not necessarily ones that we experience directly through dealing with people that we've had relationships with or jobs that we've had. Just giving examples, it could be stuff that we've observed from other people, and we have to process those memories of loss. All right, so that's basically what I wanted to share. I want to continue this walk and enjoy it fully. So I hope you're all doing okay, and I send you so much love. Take care.